been moments in your life where your heart has been broken and God has spoken to you that you can use that brokenness to make a change in a generation? That's what we're going to be talking today with Chad. So, Chad, you had a moment where your heart was broken. Could you share with the audience and the listeners what that was all about?
Yeah, there's really 2 points. One is just growing up through childhood and not realizing how broken it was until later in life. But there's a turning point back in May 2009 that I went through a divorce, and that was really the biggest turning point. It was a 10-year break from the Lord. Um, that when my ex-wife walked in and said, "I'm leaving." Broke my heart, brought me back down to my knees, and that's where everything, all the trajectory changed from there. I still remember after all that happening, turning to the Lord, I'm like, "All right, Lord, where have you been these last 10 years?" And it might as well have been audible, saying, "Chad, I've been here the whole time. You just haven't acknowledged my presence." And that's when I just surrendered it all and said, "All right, Lord, now that you've brought me through this, and you've brought me to a place of part healed and in the process of healing, what do you want me to do?" And that's what's pushed me into this second half of my life, because that happened when I was 30. I'm halfway through 40 now. Uh, and so, yeah, that's what's pushed me into where I am today, running after serving the Lord, serving the fatherless.
You do have a ministry. So let's talk about the
Mhm.
ministry that God has opened that door for and what you're doing in that ministry today.
Sure. So the ministry I started, it really came out of a premise um, that was in the process of my healing. That first year or so of my healing, I really wanted to go serve the Lord overseas. Long story short, that is not what happened. Uh, Eventually, it did, but it started out with working with 4 and 5 year olds at church on a Sunday, and working with divorce recovery ministry. So I was helping kids and then adults going through the hardest time in their life. And then I actually met my wife in a process of getting ready to go serve in Thailand, working with children that were going through one of their hardest times in their life. And it was the sex trade. It was helping rescue children at risk of going into the sex trade. In the midst of all that, I got to know the founder of it, and he did a study on what kept children out of the sex trade, and it was giving them education, clothing on their back, a safe place to be. And most of those kids that were at risk came from fatherless homes, if not all of them. Probably 90+% of them came from fatherless homes. And so, with all that happening, I said, okay, the statistics of the fatherless in jail: 75% of men incarcerated are from fatherless homes, 90% of homeless are from fatherless homes, 71% of high school dropouts, teen pregnancies are fatherless homes. So you start looking at all these statistics and say, okay, all right, this worked for this ministry in Thailand, prevention. Don't let them go down that path, and they stay away from that path. So I said, how do I apply that to this? So I started Advanced Camp. In Advanced Camp, we teach changeable trade and life skills. We speak into their life, showing them the love of Jesus and setting them on a different trajectory than what they're statistically aligned for, being from a fatherless home. And so that's the premise of what the ministry is that we started. And it really just came from a heart of serving the Lord and saying, now what? Now what do you want me to do?
So who are you reaching out to when you're going to the advanced camp? Are they young
So
boys or
Yeah, so we specifically serve fatherless young men. What
okay?
that means to us is 6th through 12th grade and no dad living in the home. So some of them have dads they have visitation with. Some of them have never met them, don't know who they are. Some of them are incarcerated. So,
Okay, wow. So what about the young men? And there are men out there that in that age group from 6 to 12 that their dad is home, but he's not home, if you know what I
mhm.
mean. Do you
That's
reach
it.
those young
That's the
people?
environment I grew up in. That's what like really pushed me into doing this. There's things that my dad did when I grew up that were extremely impactful. I still hold on to this day. My parents are still married, 52 years deep, and he was home but not home. He was
Mhm.
working, so he was gone when we were home during the week. Those guys specifically, I refer off to another ministry that works with father-son relationships, and help build those up, because they have that resource in the home. It's utilizing the resource that they have, so they're
Right.
available, just not always available. So how do you build that bond? With ours, we work with guys that just don't have a consistent father figure in the home.
So how do you meet these? How do you get into these relationships? How do you find these young men? Do you go to different churches, or does the school system allow this, or kind of give me an indication of how do you make this relationship?
So there's three top ways that we get introduced to these young men. Churches are a great one, single mom ministries, just creating awareness on the church platform. It's amazing just sharing what we do to the church congregation. It's really hard to miss James 1:27 of to serve the fatherless and the widow in their affliction. It's really hard to ignore that one. So when you throw it out to a church, typically, not always, but typically they say, okay, let me see who we can introduce you to. The second one is social media. It's amazing how powerful social media is. I will make a post and I'll boost it. That's how we've launched in Tennessee. That's how we've spread some word in Texas. That's how we've spread some word in South Florida, is through social media.
Mm.
Then the third one is word of mouth. And so once we have planted the seed, I always say the phrase "birds of a feather flock together." You get to know one single mom, they go to a single moms group, who then hang out with other single moms, and that just starts the ball rolling. Yeah, and then also do unfortunately see a lot of trending in families. A mom is signing her son up, and then her sister has a son that doesn't have a dad, and then her aunt has a kid that doesn't have a dad. And so unfortunately we also serve family groups because that happens as well. Hmm.
So let me ask you, okay, so you have these wonderful mentors for the young men. I think you mentioned that to me probably in a prior conversation, I don't think today. But when we talked about that, how do you find the right mentor, and what's that process look like? I mean, so if there's a somebody listening that wants to be a mentor, what would that process look like for them to become one?
Yeah, so up to this point, I would say 75 to 80% of our mentors are all been handpicked by me. It's guys that I've done life with, I've served on men's ministry stuff with, I've met them in networking groups. So that most of them are handpicked by me. As we grow, that becomes impossible. So we've created a platform on our website. You can apply to be a mentor. It's an application. You have to have three references: pastoral reference, just another person maybe you do life with, and then a lady that is not your spouse, which is awesome. I get all kinds of feedback on that one. I'll have to say it's always interesting because I had one guy put in his sister-in-law, and she's like, he's a really great guy and he has some really funny jokes, but he doesn't know when to stop sometimes. No guy's going to say that. He's like, this guy's hilarious. He's got all the jokes. It's just a good guy to hang out with. A guy is never going to say that. It's like, that guy's just a blast. And the wives are like, yeah, he just doesn't know when to cut it off. So it's kind of fun. But they do that. And then once do that, we do either a Zoom call if they live out of state, or a cup of coffee if they live nearby.
Mm-hmm.
I explained the program and the weight of being a mentor, because I think a lot of men miss the importance and the weight of what it looks like to speak into the next generation. They take it almost for granted.
Mm-hmm.
They hear what we do and they're like, man, I want to be a part of this because you guys do some really cool things. The really cool things are a side effect of what the purpose of being there is. So I press that on them. We also have a national background check that we do. All of our mentors are ministry safe certified. I should say, anybody that's listening to this and like, I want to be a mentor, just so you know, you have to pay for the background check. It's about $35. And we do that to have more buy-in. We don't want guys that are going to show up for one or two camps and then disappear, because that's something that's negatively impacting on our campers. And we only want positive male role models in these campers' lives.
Absolutely.
Um, you're no better than the dad if you come to one or two camps and then disappear. You're abandoning them just like their dad did. All you're doing is proving them right. And
Mm-hmm.
so I put a lot of weight on consistency. I have them sign a 1 year commitment letter with us. It's not a legal binding contract, but you have to understand the importance of this role. It is taken very seriously, both by me and by our campers, subconsciously by them. And
Mm-hmm.
so we make them go through that. And then we have a 14-page policy procedure manual. Once that's done, then they can join camp as long as they can commit to 75 to 80% show rate for our camps. In Texas, we're yearly. We do a 1 day camp once a month, all year long. So we do 12 camps minimum every year, and I expect them to be there for a minimum of 9 or 10 of them. Yep.
Oh, that's not bad at all. That's very doable. What are the things you do, Chad? What do these camps look like for, let's just kind of speak to the single moms out there that might be listening. What are your camps offer these young men?
Sure.
The Okay.
Yeah, so we throw a really big net. What I say in our mission statement is we equip fatherless young men with tangible training and life skills along with the love of Jesus. Those tangible training life skills can be everything from our next one here in Texas is cooking. We do grilling. We do smoking and barbecuing, because smoking and barbecuing is very different than grilling. Do blacksmithing, leather work, automotive, lawn care, RC cars, 3D printing, CNC machining. We do so many different things. And we do the fun stuff. So we do camping and we do hunting and we do fishing. But what we really try to do is speak into these young men's lives of what's your future look like? And if we can put these guys on a trajectory of a trade skill or a life skill, or at least open their mind to it. I always joke that worst case scenario, they find a new hobby. Best case
Right.
scenario, they find a career path. And these young men that may not be aligned for college, 71% of high school dropouts are from fatherless homes. Well,
Mhm.
if they're struggling to get through high school, why are we forcing them to a 4-year college degree? That's just ridiculous. So,
Mhm.
hey, become a plumber. Come out of school and make almost six figures out of school. Become a
Absolutely.
blacksmith, a farrier. If you want to start doing horseshoes, 3 to 4 years of training as an intern, and you come out at 3 to 4 years making no joke, six figures, about 120 a year starting on your own.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
it's like, why aren't we opening these guys' eyes to this?
Well, and not everyone's going to be fit for college. Not everyone is college bound. I mean,
No.
that's just a matter of fact. I mean, my
Yep.
dad was an automotive mechanic and he ended up opening five businesses and retired at the age of 52.
Yeah. And so that's what a mom can expect that we teach for our topics. But the part of the love of Christ is that we don't find just mentors that are a Christian. We find mentors that are followers of Jesus. And those are two very
Yeah.
different things.
Hmm.
One clocks in and out on Sunday. I went to church, I did my thing, I sang my hymnals, and then Monday morning, back to the grind. They are who they want to be. And then our guys, we find, are constantly chasing the Lord. How can I become a better follower of Jesus every day of my life? Those are the guys I find, because those are the guys who are going to speak true identity into these young men.
Amen.
Um, and so, moms, any moms that are listening, understand that we're going to be teaching them tangible trained life skills. That is our conduit to speak into their lives, speak Christ centered identity into their sons, show them what a good godly man looks like, how we should be treating women, how we should be having our ethics. All that is encompassed in becoming a follower of Jesus. And then at lunchtime, we do what I call a nugget out of scripture. What that nugget means is 8 to 12 minutes, short little Bible study that ties directly into whatever trade we're teaching. Reason is 8 to 12 minutes. We
Hmm.
work with teenagers. Let's just be honest. Attention span is not the best. You go much longer than that, a stick turns into a sword and a rock turns into a car, and they're gone. And so we keep it short, sweet, to the point, with additional opportunities for discipleship, mentorship. But that's the nuts and bolts of our day camp. The one thing I do like to tell moms when I do their intake call is camp is 100% free. There's literally no cost to the moms for camp. If that's a fishing license, we cover it. If it's camouflage for hunting, we cover it. When we camp out, we cover the tents, the sleeping bags, the food. We cut literally everything. There should be no out of pocket expense to a mom that sends her son to camp. I,
Wow,
I'm
that's
I'm
good.
very diligent about raising funds. Um, I would say probably 75% of my time is developing our support system, financial support system, so that we can keep it free for the moms.
But I think that's so important too. And I think a lot of people slip through the crack because the ones that really need it are the ones that can't afford it. And so I
Mm-hmm.
love that you guys are doing that. That's so important, for
Yep.
those kids to get in there. So I love that you teach them automotive, welding, fishing, and then you also have general construction. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you get all those camps? Do you invite somebody in that owns a business that teaches them these skills? How does that work?
Yeah. So we do so many topics, and some of them I can teach. I prefer not to. It's not really my forte. My forte is being a mentor, running logistics, making sure camp happens. So what I do is I invite people in that do this for a living. And there's really twofold to it. For one, they can speak into it better than I can. They do it day in and day out. But a lot of the times we actually find the business owner that is doing it too. So they can speak into the trade, but they can also speak into um, the career path. They can speak into the small business side of it. So if we do general contracting, they can really speak on the three levels of it. Like, how do you swing the hammer? How do you manage people swinging the hammer? And how do you make a living out of this? And so it's really neat to bring in those people. We partnered with a few different builders in Granbury. I've worked with some builders in South Florida. We got one scheduled up in Tennessee. And so we also have camp in Oregon. We just haven't done it in Oregon yet, but for blacksmithing in Oregon, we got a guy that owns his own farrier company, and so he comes in and teaches them how to blacksmith, how to fit a horseshoe, and how to make money doing it. And so they're the professionals.
Yeah.
I tell them, hey, you get to speak into these young men for the day. The cool caveat to it, and this happens really often, is we'll be at a shop, we'll be doing a trade, and the owner of that company will come and be like, hey, John was like, you can tell he's really into this. I said, yeah, he really actually enjoys working on automotive stuff. This happened in Florida. And he goes, man, are you okay if I offer him a job? I'm like, of course I'm okay with that. So he pulled him aside and said, hey man, John, I see how engaged you are with this, how much you want to learn. He goes, you turn 16 and you come see me and you have a job. And we will go get you through a process, become an ASE certified technician. Like, that's the things that happen at camp that put this guy on a path other than what he really should be statistically aligned to do, you know.
Well, that just changed his whole life. I mean,
It
think
did.
about that.
Yep.
By having that opportunity and being able to find a job and make a living,
Hmm.
and it just will change your whole life. I mean, now you've
Yep.
taken poverty off the chart, right? Because now
Yep.
poverty is
Correct.
not going to be an issue. Now he's going to be able to pay his bills.
Hmm.
So if somebody was listening today, what would you say to them? If How would they get in touch with you? How would they get part of this program? How could they give to this program if they wanted to support this program financially? Just give us a lasting word of what you could do to kind of encourage them to be a part of this or partner with you in this ministry.
Sure. So the easiest ways to get involved with financially supporting us, or even supporting us with prayer, if you go onto our website, it's advance, ADVANCE, camp, CAMPUSA.com. You can go on there, contact us. They'll send me a message directly. It has a give now. If you click on the give page, it actually gives you like four options of how you can give to Advance Camp, whether it be becoming a community partner through Kroger, like you get a percentage of your purchase goes to Advance Camp. Uh, we actually now have a donation program for cars, airplanes, helicopters, motorcycles, boats, farm equipment. You can donate that. Another company processes it all for us. So it's literally just a direct funding thing for us. We sell a coffee that we've partnered with, Just Love Coffee, out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Every bag that gets sold, $5 gets donated to Advance Camp. And then obviously cash donation. There's a give spot for that as well. That's all found on our website. But if you're on there, you can actually sign up for our newsletter. There is opportunities to give for specific things. We have camp coming up in March. We're launching Advanced Camp Junior, which is the fourth and fifth graders. So it's 8, 9, and 10-year-olds. And we have 0 sponsors for that right now. The Lord said go. I said, okay. And I'm just waiting for the funds to come in. So I made an ask on my newsletter saying, hey, this is what we need. This is the monthly donors we need. This is our launch cost. If it moves your heart, you can give. So that's an example. So sign up for the newsletter and you'll find out what camps we did teach, what we have upcoming, if you want to sponsor a specific activity, or you just move to help out regardless, for a general fund, which is always needed as well. That's the best way to get involved. The neat thing about us is we are so grassroots still. Even like a $500 or $1,000 donation means a lot to us. We finished 2024 on our 990. We haven't finished our 2025 yet. That's why I can't go off that number. But 2024 at 154,000 is what we brought in. across 6 states, 27 day camps, over 100 campers served continuously throughout the whole year. So it's once they sign up, they keep coming. And we have 40 volunteers across the nation. And then I'm the only paid staff. So 154,000 to do a lot of stuff, like a lot, and immersing them into the trades community. So it just tells you like a $500,000 donation is a big deal to us. You know, whereas you go to XYZ nonprofit that's running off of 10, $12 million a year, 500 or 1,000, I'm sure they appreciate it, but it's not making an impact. Ours is going straight over to our campers and saying, let's bless these guys for the day. Hey, we're doing blacksmithing. They're going to get a pair of safety gloves, safety glasses. They're going to walk away with the project that they just finished and the possibility of a career path. So it's a little different
Can't beat
impact.
that.
Yeah.
Can't beat that. Well, Chad, I'm just really thankful that you've taken the time to just come on the show and to share this. I think it's really going to make a difference. I think some people are going to listen, and I pray that their hearts will be stirred to actually act on this. And maybe if they know a child out there, a young man that needs a father figure, that they will look into this and sign him up and
Mm-hmm.
get him involved so that he can learn some life skills that will take him wherever God's chose for him, his path. So we really
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here.
Hello, friends. I just want to take a moment and thank you for joining us today with Ministry with Coffee. We're so glad that you're here. And I want to ask that if this has moved you or encouraged you, the story that you just listened to today, that you would like our page and that you would share our page with your friends and your family. Together, if we work together, we can share the gospel of Jesus throughout the world at one cup, one story at a time. Thank you again for your support. We are so glad that you have chosen to minister and partner with us. Thank you again.